The auction night was dark and full of shadows. The marketplace alive with harsh lights and loud voices. Alien traders shouted and bargained, their eyes sharp, scanning every corner for profit. A human man walked carefully among the crowded stalls, his boots echoing on the stone floor. He had heard rumors of a secret auction where rare and exotic beings were sold. And his curiosity had brought him here. Most humans would have stayed far away. But he felt a strange pull, something he could not explain, drawing him deeper into the chaos. The cages were lined in long rows, each one holding creatures of strange shapes and colors. Some had wings, some had scales, and some were completely unknown to him. But one small cage caught his eye, and he stopped dead in his tracks. Inside, a tiny alien girl huddled in the corner, her eyes wide and shining with fear. Her skin was pale green, and her hair shimmered like silver under the harsh lights. She looked fragile, almost like a child, and her small hands clutched the bars as if they could protect her. The human could feel her fear, and it pierced him in a way he had never expected. The traders laughed and mocked her, calling her weak and worthless. They said she would not survive. A week outside their control, and the crowd seemed to agree. The human frowned, his chest tightening with anger and a strange sense of responsibility. He knew she was in danger, and he could not just leave her there. The auction began. The alien auctioneer's voice booming through the hall, he listed the creatures one by one, naming strange prices that made the human's eyes widen. When the little girl's turn came, the crowd laughed louder, making jokes about her size and weakness. The human felt his hand tighten into a fist, and he stepped forward without thinking. He raised his bid, shocking everyone around him. Murmurs ran through the crowd. A human dares to bid. The auctioneer's eyes narrowed, and the other traders stared at him with suspicion and anger. The bidding war began, the prices climbing quickly. Other buyers shouted higher numbers, trying to scare him away. The human did not hesitate, raising his bid again and again, his heart pounding in his chest. The little girl watched him carefully, her fear mixed with confusion. She had never seen someone fight for her like this, and it made her chest ache with hope she had not felt in years. The crowd grew tense, the noise of the auction fading as everyone watched the strange human bid for the small alien girl. Some whispered, some laughed, and some shook their heads in disbelief. The human's determination was clear. His eyes locked on the girl, silently promising her safety. Finally, after what felt like hours, he won. The gavel banging loudly as the auctioneer declared, "Sold." Gasps ran through the crowd, and the other traders muttered under their breath. Clearly upset by the unexpected outcome, the human quickly stepped forward. Opening the cage with care, the girl hesitated, her eyes wide and uncertain, but he held out his hand, gentle and steady. Slowly, she stepped forward, trusting him for the first time. The crowd parted around them, still staring, but the human did not care. He lifted her from the cage, careful not to hurt her, and she clung to him, trembling. Her small body felt fragile. But there was a strange strength in her eyes, a silent warning that she had survived much worse. They walked out of the auction hall, the night air hitting them like a wave. The streets were dim and dangerous, full of shadows and strange noises. The human kept a careful watch, scanning every corner. Knowing the traders might not give up easily, the girl stayed close, her small hands gripping his arm, and for the first time she felt something she had never known: safety. The human did not speak much, letting his presence be enough. He knew words were not needed yet, the connection between them stronger than anything spoken. As they disappeared into the night, the auction hall behind them still buzzing with confusion and anger, the human knew this was only the beginning. The girl's freedom was won, but the dangers of the night had just begun. Something inside him told him that one night of safety would never be enough. And deep down, he knew that his life and his heart were about to change forever. Escape to safety. The streets outside the auction hall were dark and wet, the rain falling in cold sheets. The human moved quickly, his boots splashing through puddles, carrying the small alien girl carefully in his arms. She shivered against him, her eyes wide and searching. Every shadow seemed alive, and every sound made her jump. The human whispered softly, "Stay close to me, you'll be safe," and she nodded, trusting him in a way she had never trusted anyone. The marketplace was quieting down, but danger was far from over. He knew the auction traders would not give up easily, and the city's narrow streets were full of spies and bounty hunters. They ducked into alleys, moving silently, avoiding the glow of streetlights that could reveal their path. The girl clung to him, silent at first, but her small fingers pressed against his arm in a tiny sign of trust. The human felt a strange warmth, a sense that protecting her was more than duty. It was something personal. Every step was tense, the human scanning the shadows, listening for footsteps behind them. The city had corners where danger could hide, and he knew one wrong move could cost them both. A dog-like alien creature barked somewhere in the distance, and the girl jumped. He laughed softly, trying to ease her fear. "It's just a dog, nothing more." But even he could feel the tension in the air. They moved through hidden pathways, abandoned buildings, and narrow bridges, each step bringing them closer to safety, but also closer to unknown threats. The girl finally spoke, her voice small and hesitant. "Why are you helping me?" The human looked down at her, surprised by the question. I don't know," he said slowly. "I just couldn't leave you there. You didn't deserve it." She studied him carefully, and for the first time, her eyes softened, her small voice whispered, "Thank you." And the human felt a strange satisfaction, as if saving her had given him a purpose he never had before. They reached the edge of the city, where the buildings ended, and the wild alien landscape began. Tall rocks and strange glowing plants made the path uneven and dangerous. The human helped her over slippery stones, supporting her carefully. They stopped for a moment, catching their breath, and he realized how fragile she truly was. Yet beneath that fragility was courage, a small but fierce light that refused to be broken. Suddenly, a shout rang from behind them, harsh and angry. The human froze, listening, and then turned to see shadows moving in the distance. The alien enforcers searching. "Run!" he hissed, and they both sprinted through the mud and rocks, their breaths coming fast and heavy. The girl stumbled, but he caught her just in time. Holding her tightly, they ducked behind a large rock, hearts pounding, listening as the voices passed. The danger had not disappeared, was always there, lurking, waiting for a mistake. Hours passed as they moved cautiously through the alien wilderness. The human kept them low, hidden in the shadows, always alert. The girl began to relax slightly, whispering questions about him, about humans, about the world outside the cage. He answered patiently, teaching her simple things about survival, about watching for danger, about trusting instincts. She listened carefully, absorbing every word. And slowly, a bond began to form, silent but strong. By dawn, they reached a small, abandoned settlement, hidden deep in a rocky canyon. The human let out a quiet sigh, setting her down gently. "This will be safe for now," he said, and she nodded, her eyes still wary, but trusting him more than ever. She explored the settlement cautiously, touching the walls. Peering out of broken windows, he watched her, a strange pride swelling inside him. Knowing he had given her a small taste of freedom for the first time, they shared a simple meal of dried fruits and water, the human handing pieces to her carefully. She ate slowly, not used to kindness, and then looked up at him with wide eyes. You are different," she said quietly. No one has ever been like this to me." He smiled, a little embarrassed. "Maybe I just don't like seeing people suffer," he said, shrugging. She nodded, thinking about that, and for the first time, a faint smile appeared on her face, fragile but real, as the sun rose, painting the canyon in soft gold. The human knew their journey had just begun. They were safe for now, but danger still followed them. Invisible but persistent, he looked down at her, tiny and vulnerable, and promised silently, "I won't let anyone hurt you. Not now, not ever." The girl's eyes met his, and though she did not speak, he could see the trust growing in her gaze. It was a fragile trust, but stronger than fear. And it gave him hope, hope that one day she might call him friend, and maybe something more. Something neither of them fully understood yet. The night had passed. But the story of their escape was far from over. Every step they took brought new dangers, new surprises, and new chances. To prove courage, the human knew one thing clearly: he had chosen this path, and there was no turning back. Together, they would face the dark world, survive its dangers, and slowly, very slowly, learn to trust, and perhaps, just perhaps, find something that neither of them expected: a bond that could change everything. Secrets of her past, the human and the small alien girl, rested in the hidden settlement, the sun filtering through cracks in the rocky walls. For a moment, the world seemed quiet, almost peaceful. But the human knew that calm could vanish at any second. The girl sat beside a small fire, her eyes downcast, fingers tracing patterns in the dust. The human watched her silently, sensing that she wanted to say something but was unsure how. Finally, she looked up, her silver hair catching the light, and whispered, "I was stolen from my home." The words were small, trembling, but heavy with pain. The human nodded gently, encouraging her without pressuring. "Tell me what happened," he said softly. She took a deep breath, and slowly the story poured out, piece by piece, like fragments of a broken crystal. Her family had been powerful once, leaders of a peaceful alien clan, but enemies had attacked, taking many away. And she had been captured and sold into slavery. She described cold cages, cruel traders, and harsh lessons in obedience. She had learned to hide her fear, to survive by staying quiet, and to trust no one. Her voice wavered as she spoke. Memories? Sharp and painful, the human felt a sting in his chest. Anger rising at the injustice, but also sorrow for the girl who had suffered so much. "I thought no one would ever care," she admitted, her eyes glistening. "I thought I would die there, and the world would forget me." The human placed a hand gently on her shoulder, steadying her trembling body. "You're alive now, and I care," he said quietly. "I will protect you, no matter what." Her gaze softened, and for the first time in years, she allowed herself to hope. It was a fragile hope, but it felt like a spark in the dark, small yet powerful. The human asked questions carefully, trying to understand her world, her pain, her fears. She told him about alien rituals, strange foods, and customs he could barely imagine. She explained how slaves were trained to obey, to fear, and to forget their names. The human listened, fascinated and horrified, realizing the strength it took for her to survive. Every word she spoke made him admire her courage more. He realized that her life had been stolen, but her spirit had never been broken. As the day past, danger lurked just beyond the settlement, hidden in the alien wilderness. Traders and bounty hunters still searched for her. Tracking her scent and movements, the human checked the surrounding paths, making sure no one could sneak close. Every rustle in the bushes, every shadow in the rocks made them tense. The girl clung closer to him now, small hands gripping his arm. He did not mind feeling her trust as a gift, bond growing stronger with every heartbeat. At one point, she asked quietly, "Why did you pay so much for me?" The human hesitated, unsure how to explain. I didn't want to see you hurt, and I couldn't ignore it," he said, his voice steady. She studied him, trying to understand. And after a long pause, whispered, "I think I am beginning to trust you." The human nodded, feeling a warmth spread through him. Trust was fragile, yes, but it was real, and it gave them both a reason to keep moving forward. They spent the evening in silence, listening to the wind howling. Through the canyon, the girl occasionally peeked at him, her eyes curious and careful. He spoke softly about human worlds, about simple things she had never seen. She listened, amazed by stories of courage, kindness, and strange inventions, even in the dark, dangerous world around them. Small moments of connection brought light to their hearts. As night fell, the human prepared a small shelter. Covering them both with blankets, the girl curled up beside him. Feeling safe for the first time, "I've never had someone care for me like this," she whispered, almost to herself. The human touched her hair gently. "And you will never have to be alone again," he said, her eyes closed slowly, exhaustion and relief mingling. The night was quiet, but the weight of her past hung in the air. A reminder of the danger still ahead. Deep inside, the human knew this was only the beginning. The girl's freedom was fragile, and their journey had many challenges yet to come. But for the first time, they were not alone, and they had each other, and in that bond, something stronger than fear began to grow, something neither had expected. A connection built from courage, trust, and a shared desire to survive. The past had been cruel, but the present offered hope, and the future. The future held promise. The canyon was silent under the alien stars, but in their small shelter, two hearts beat with a quiet determination. The girl, fragile but brave, began to heal, piece by piece. The human, strong and caring, knew he had chosen a path full of danger, but also full of meaning. Together, they would face the unknown, uncover secrets, and discover that freedom was only the beginning of their story. The bond grows. The sun rose over the jagged canyon, painting the rocks in soft orange and gold. The humans stretched, careful not to wake the small alien girl still sleeping beside him. Her silver hair shimmered in the light, and he felt a strange protectiveness rise in his chest. He had never met anyone like her before, fragile yet brave, silent yet full of spirit. She had survived horrors most could not imagine, and somehow she still carried hope within her. The girl stirred, blinking her wide green eyes, and looked at him cautiously. "Morning," he said softly. Offering a small smile, she tilted her head, unsure how to respond, but then nodded, a faint smile appearing. Breakfast was simple. Dried fruits and water, shared silently. The human noticed how carefully she ate, savoring each bite as if it were a rare treasure. He realized then that freedom had made her hungry for life in a way he had never seen. Once they were ready, they left the hidden settlement. Moving carefully through the canyon, the human led the way, eyes scanning every shadow, every corner. The girl stayed close, matching his pace, her small hands brushing against his arm now. And then, neither spoke much, but the silence was comfortable. A quiet understanding forming between them. She began to imitate him in small ways. How he stepped over rocks, how he ducked under low branches. It was subtle, almost instinctive, and it made him smile quietly. Noticing her learning and adapting as they walked, the human decided it was time to teach her about danger. He stopped at a narrow cliff, pointing to the path ahead. "Sometimes threats are not obvious," he said. He showed her how to listen for noises, how to watch for sudden movements, and how to stay alert. She listened carefully, nodding, absorbing every lesson, her eyes serious and focused. He realized that despite her size, She had a mind sharp enough to understand. Her survival depended on it, and he felt a surge of pride. Seeing her courage grow with each step, hours passed, and the canyon began to widen, revealing strange glowing plants and alien wildlife. The girl's eyes widened in wonder, and she began asking questions. Timid at first, "Are those real?" "Shh," she whispered, pointing to a cluster of luminous flowers. "Yes," the human said, smiling. "The world is bigger than you've ever imagined." She studied the plants carefully, then turned to him. "Do humans have plants like this?" He shook his head, laughing softly. "No, but we have other wonders," he said. "You'll see someday." They set up a small camp as evening fell. Gathering firewood and sheltering in a rock overhang, the girl helped. Cautiously, her small hands awkward but determined, he watched her, realizing how much trust she had placed in him in such a short time. It was fragile, yes, but it was real. And it strengthened their bond with each passing moment. That night, they shared stories by the fire. The humans speaking about Earth and human cities. She listened, fascinated, asking questions about humans, about their lives and their courage. Then she shared small stories of her own, moments of her past that were not full of pain. She talked about a favorite song her mother once sang. It's a small tradition she remembered. The human listened quietly, imagining the little girl's life before the pain. Her memories were brief but precious, glimpses of the innocence she had lost too soon. As the fire burned low, the human noticed how tired she had become. Her eyelids drooped, her breathing steady but soft. He handed her a small blanket, tucking it around her shoulders. "You're safe now," he whispered, and she gave a tiny nod, snuggling closer. The warmth of the fire and his presence made her feel a comfort she had never known. Sleep came slowly, but it came together, and for the first time in years, she felt free. Her small hand brushed against his arm unconsciously, a silent sign of trust. The human realized that their bond was no longer just necessity. It was something stronger, something growing in silence, stronger than fear, stronger than the dangers around them. The night passed quietly, and with the first light of dawn, the human felt a sense of determination. They had survived one more night, and their connection had grown. He knew that their journey was far from over, that dangers still awaited, but now they faced them together. Not as stranger and captive, but as companions. And with each step, each shared glance, each small act of trust, their bond deepened. Something had begun between them, a story of courage, trust, and slowly the first sparks of friendship. And maybe, one day, more. The first true danger. The sun had barely risen when the human noticed footprints in the soft ground. They were too large to belong to him, too fresh to be old. He crouched, scanning the surrounding cliffs, every muscle tense. The alien girl clung tightly to his arm. Sensing his sudden shift in energy, her green eyes wide, reflecting a fear he understood all too well. "They're close," he whispered, voice low and steady. The girl nodded, gripping his hand, small fingers trembling. He took a deep breath, reminding himself to stay calm. Fear could make mistakes, but clarity could save them. He scanned the path ahead and noticed broken branches, signs that someone or something had passed recently. They were not alone, and the human knew they would not have much time before confrontation. He motioned for her to stay behind a large boulder. She crouched, trying to stay silent, her small body pressed against the rough stone. The human moved ahead carefully, every step calculated. His eyes caught movement, shadows slipping through the rocks. It was the first true danger since he had bought her freedom. And he could feel adrenaline sharpening every sense. A group of bounty hunters emerged, armed and ruthless, their armor scratched and worn, their faces hidden by helmets. They had been tracking the girl for weeks, never giving up. The human's heart raced, but he did not panic. He had prepared for this moment. Even if he had hoped it would never come, stay back. He shouted to the girl, making sure she understood. She nodded quickly. Hiding as he moved between her and the hunters, the human calculated his options, knowing brute force alone might not work. He used the canyon's terrain, shadows, and rocks. To his advantage, every move was precise, aiming to confuse and delay the hunters. The bounty hunters noticed his tactics, frustration flashing in their eyes. They had not expected such cleverness from a lone human. The human darted between rocks, using the uneven ground to create barriers. A small rock slid down, hitting one of the hunters and forcing him to stumble. It was not much, but it gave the human precious seconds. The girl watched, wide-eyed, as the human fought not just for himself, but for her. She had never seen courage like this, raw and fearless. She realized that he was not just her protector. He was someone she could trust with her life. Her heart raced, and for a moment, she felt a strange connection. The danger around them made their bond sharper, clearer, undeniable. One of the hunters raised a strange weapon. Glowing with a blue light, the human noticed it immediately. Knowing it could pierce through armor easily, he grabbed a long stick nearby. Blocking the blast just in time, the energy crackled against the rock, sparks flying. The girl gasped softly. Hiding behind her hands, the human's eyes met hers for a split second. A silent promise, "I will not let them hurt you." He pushed forward, forcing the hunters to split, their communication broken by the rocky terrain and his clever maneuvers. One hunter lunged at him, but the human sidestepped, using the hunter's momentum to trip him. Another aimed directly at the girl, but the human intercepted, shielding her with his body. Pain burned in his arm from the weapon's energy, but he did not let it stop him. The alien girl's courage grew as she watched. For the first time, she realized that fear did not have to control her. She picked up a small rock and threw it. Hitting a hunter's shoulder, the human smiled briefly. Seeing her small act of defiance, even in danger, they were learning to fight together. To survive as a team after a tense struggle, the hunters retreated, realizing they had underestimated the human. They disappeared into the canyon. Muttering threats that would come again, the girl let out a shaky breath, relief flooding her small body. The human checked her, making sure she was unharmed. "You did well," he said softly. "You were brave." She looked at him, eyes shining with a mix of fear and admiration. I didn't know I could do that," she admitted, voice trembling but proud. The human nodded, realizing that this danger had changed something between them. It was no longer just survival. It was trust, courage, and respect. The girl understood. That freedom came with responsibility, and she was beginning to accept it. He realized that he had not only protected her, but had also awakened something within her. Something strong. Something ready to face the world alongside him. As they moved on through the canyon, their bond stronger than ever. The human felt a strange warmth, knowing that their journey was far from over, but they would face every danger together, side by side. The night of the first true danger had passed, but the lessons it taught them would last. And in that harsh, alien world, two hearts had found courage, trust, and the beginning of something far deeper than either had expected: secrets and shadows. The canyon had fallen quiet after the skirmish, but the human knew better than to relax. Every shadow seemed deeper now, every rustle sharper. The alien girl walked close, her small hand brushing against his sleeve occasionally. Her green eyes were wide, cautious, yet more determined than before. The human could see her growing confidence, tempered by fear, and he felt a quiet pride. As they moved forward, she paused suddenly, pointing to a narrow crevice. I think someone is hiding there," she whispered, voice barely audible. The human crouched beside her, peering into the darkness. A pair of glowing eyes stared back, unblinking, waiting. He sensed danger, but also the opportunity to teach her. To let her learn courage in action. Stay behind me, he said, stepping forward carefully. The girl nodded, holding back, but her eyes never left the shadow. A low growl echoed from the crevice, and the human realized it was not a hunter this time. It was an alien creature, large and dangerous, teeth sharp and claws long. The girl gasped. Gripping his sleeve, this world. It doesn't stop testing us, he murmured, eyes locked on the creature. He assessed the creature, noticing its movements, calculating its strength. The girl watched silently, absorbing every detail. Learning without words, the human picked up a long stick. Gripping it tightly, he knew he needed to act, but also needed to show her how to face fear. The creature lunged suddenly, and he sidestepped. Pushing it back with the stick, it hissed and circled, waiting for another chance. Eyes locked on them both. The girl held her breath, her small hands trembling. I want to help, she whispered, voice shaking. The human turned to her. Giving a small nod, good, but be careful, he said. Courage is not recklessness. She picked up a small stone, aiming carefully, and threw it at the creature. It struck the creature's side, surprising it and buying them a moment of advantage. They worked together, human and girl, their movements almost instinctive. He attacked when needed. She distracted when possible. It was their first real fight, side by side, and their trust deepened with every action. The creature finally retreated, disappearing into the shadows. The girl exhaled, relief and pride mingling. In her small chest, we did it, she whispered, barely able to believe it. The human smiled, crouching beside her. Yes, we did, he said. And this is only the beginning. She looked at him, eyes shining, a mixture of admiration and curiosity. I never thought I could be brave, she admitted. You were always brave, he said softly. You just didn't believe it yet. Her lips curved slightly. A small smile forming for the first time in a long while. As night approached, they found shelter beneath a rocky outcrop. The girl hesitated, looking at the human. Will we be safe here? She asked quietly. He nodded, setting up a small fire. The warmth reaching both body and heart. Safe enough to rest, but we must stay alert, he said. Danger never sleeps. She nodded, wrapping herself in a blanket, small and cautious. He watched her, noticing how the smallest movements now carried more confidence than fear. Around the fire, the girl spoke of her past again. Small pieces she had not shared. She revealed secrets of her family, fragments of a life stolen from her. The human listened carefully, asking questions that helped her speak. She began to trust him more, sharing memories she had thought lost forever. The canyon's shadows flickered around them, but inside their small circle of light, trust and friendship grew. Suddenly, a distant noise echoed through the canyon, sharp and unnatural. The girl froze, her small hand clutching his arm. The human rose slowly, listening, muscles tense. Ready for whatever was coming, he realized that their journey would not be simple. That shadows always hid threats, but he also knew that their bond made them stronger. Able to face what came together, he placed a hand gently on her shoulder. Grounding her, "You are not alone," he said. Voice firm but calm. Her eyes met his, and she nodded, small but determined. "I will follow you," she whispered. "I trust you." And in that trust, something unspoken passed between them. A bond forged not just from survival, but from understanding, courage, and shared experiences. The night grew darker, the canyon silent again. They huddled close, fire flickering, shadows dancing around them. The human knew the dangers ahead would test them more, But he also knew that together they had a strength that no hunter, creature, or shadow could break. And as the alien girl's small hand rested against his, he realized that freedom was not just about escaping the past. It was about building something new, a story of courage, trust, and maybe love. In the canyon of secrets and shadows, two unlikely companions prepared to face the world, side by side. Freedom's true price: the morning air was crisp, and the canyon glowed with the soft light of dawn. The human and the alien girl moved carefully. Every step measured, the girl's small hand stayed in his, no longer fearful, but confident. She had survived danger, learned courage, and discovered trust. But the path ahead was still uncertain, shadows and hunters lurking in every turn. They reached the edge of the canyon, where the land opened into a wide plain. The human scanned the horizon, spotting smoke in the distance. "Hunters," he whispered. Voice low, "We must be careful." The girl tightened her grip on his arm. Ready to follow his lead, he nodded, signaling for silence, and they moved through the tall grass, blending with the landscape. Suddenly, a shout rang out, sharp and urgent. A group of bounty hunters appeared, weapons raised, eyes filled with greed. The human shielded the girl, stepping in front of her. "You want her?" he shouted, voice strong. "Come get her." The hunters advanced, confident, thinking one human could not stop them all. The human knew he had to act quickly. He used the terrain, rolling rocks to block paths, creating distractions. The girl watched, now understanding fully how to move, how to anticipate danger. She threw stones, tripped hunters with small maneuvers, and shouted warnings. Together, they fought not just for survival, but for freedom. For the right to choose their own lives. The leader of the hunters stepped forward, pointing a weapon directly at the girl. The human's heart raced, but he stood firm, placing himself between her and the threat. "You will not touch her," he growled, his voice full of authority. The hunter laughed, raising his weapon higher. But the human moved first. He disarmed the hunter with a swift strike, knocking him back. And the others hesitated, unsure what to do. The girl seized the moment, rushing forward, kicking a fallen weapon toward another hunter. Her small body moved with purpose, strength she had never known. The hunters, shocked by the human and girl's coordination, began to retreat, their greed and confidence shattered by the courage of two unlikely companions. The human watched them disappear into the distance. Breathing heavily, he turned to the girl, seeing the mixture of fear and triumph in her eyes. "You did it," he said softly, kneeling beside her. "I did it," she whispered, voice trembling. "Because you taught me," he smiled, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "No, we did it together," he corrected, "and you were brave every step of the way." She looked at him, a faint blush rising, understanding the depth of his words. Her trust in him had grown into something more, a connection she had never expected. As they continued their journey, the canyon behind them, they reached a quiet river. The water flowed clear and calm, reflecting the sky above. The girl dipped her hands into the cool water, washing away the dust and sweat. She laughed softly, a sound that warmed the human's heart. For the first time, she felt free, truly free. Not just from hunters, but from fear itself. The human set up a small camp by the river, preparing food for them both. The girl helped willingly, her confidence shining in every motion. They ate together, sharing small stories and laughs. The human realized that their journey had changed them both. They had faced danger, discovered courage, and found trust in each other. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, the human and the girl sat side by side, watching the world calm around them. He turned to her, voice gentle. "You are safe now." She looked at him, eyes bright with emotion. "Thanks to you," she whispered. He shook his head, smiling. "No, thanks to both of us." The night fell. Stars appearing one by one, glittering above the quiet land. The girl rested her head against his shoulder. Tired but content, he felt a warmth in his chest, a sense of accomplishment and something deeper. Their bond had grown into something neither had expected. Not just freedom, not just survival, but understanding, trust, and perhaps love. The human realized that freedom always came at a price. They had fought, risked everything, and learned to trust each other completely. But now, with danger behind them, they could start a new life, a life built on courage, respect, and the knowledge that no force could break their bond. The alien girl looked up at him, eyes reflecting the stars above. "Do you think we can be safe forever?" she asked softly. He smiled, brushing a strand of silver hair from her face. "Not forever," he said, "but together we can face anything." And in that moment, the quiet of the canyon under the endless sky, two hearts beat with the same rhythm, ready to embrace the freedom they had earned. And as the fire flickered and the night held them close, their story continued, not as captor and captive, but as companions, friends, and perhaps something far more.